Yes, good morning, all of you, and welcome back to the online session of microprocessors and microcontrollers class. In today's session, we'll be starting off the chapter number 3, as I told you in the last class. So, the chapter number 3 is all about the interfacing devices, interfacing devices to the 8086 microprocessor. Okay, till now, we saw what is 8086 microprocessor, different operating modes, pin diagram, architecture, and everything related to the 8086 microprocessor was discussed. Now we'll discuss the some of interfacing devices. Okay, so as I told you in the last class, interfacing. What do you mean by interfacing? Interfacing is nothing but what? Connection with communication. Okay, so establish the so connection with communication is nothing but interfacing. That means different devices will be connected to the 8086 microprocessor in order to perform several tasks. Okay, but their control of operation, okay, their control of operation will be with the microprocessor. Okay, I gave you an example in the last class itself. So the control of operation will rest with the microprocessor, but the operations will be performed by using some similar chips. Okay, so that is nothing but interfacing. Okay, so we define interfacing as connection with the communication between the devices, right? So in today's class we will discuss about one of the interfacing devices, that is 8255. 8255 is one of the interfacing devices. Before discussing that 8255, we'll discuss interfacing of IO ports. Interfacing of IO ports. Why we have to discuss interfacing of IO ports before 8255? Because 8255 is one of the IO ports interfacing device. Okay, 8255 is a IO port interfacing devices. Okay, so that is why we need to discuss what is IO port interfacing, why should we do IO port interfacing to the microprocessor, and what are different types of interfacings of IO ports we have, that we will see. Okay, so those basics are needed in order to understand or in order to enter into the 8255, right? So quickly we'll have a look into the interfacing of IO ports here. So generally what happens, IO ports or input output ports are the devices through which the microprocessor communicates with other devices or external data sources or destinations, right? So first we have to understand what is this, what is meant by this IO port. Okay, so what do you mean by IO port here? IO port is a device. Okay, IO port is a device through which the microprocessor communicates. Okay, communication means what? To and fro data transfer. To and fro data transfer. Communicates with other devices. Communicates with other devices or external data sources. Other devices means what? Like input devices, we have keyboard, mouse, joystick. These are all the input devices. Similarly, output devices we have like monitor, printer. These are all the output devices, right? So these are all the external devices. Similarly, external data sources. What are all the external data sources we can have? Like pen drives or DVDs. Okay, floppies. Okay, all these hard drives. All these are all the data sources. Okay, so we have to communicate. We have to communicate with these external devices through these ports. Through these ports, the communication will be done through these input output ports. Input output ports. Okay, suppose for example we are connecting a pen drive. Suppose that there is a movie in the pen drive. Okay, we are connecting that pen drive to the laptop, or else nowadays we can connect that pen drive to our mobile phone also. Okay, so we need to copy that movie which is present in the pen drive into the system or mobile phone. Okay, that is the thing here, right? So this process of copying the movie from pen drive to pen drive to the system or to the mobile phone will be done through these input output ports only. That is the best example you can have, right? Right. So uh, we can interface either input devices or we can interface either output devices. Okay, so we can perform input operations or we can perform output operations. Input operations are generally read operations. See here, input operations are generally read operations. The devices which accept data from the microprocessor is called output devices, and the devices which give input to the microprocessor are called input devices, right? So in the input ports we connect input devices only. Okay, that means we read. Suppose uh, keyboard is a input device. From keyboard we read the data. From keyboard the microprocessor reads the data. That means any input device, any input port will have a read operation only. While suppose if you have a mouse, if you have a monitor, okay, or a printer, so that actually accepts data from the microprocessor. That means that provides a write operation only. That provides only write operation. Okay. So input port will have read operation and output port will have write operation. Okay. So in input port you cannot perform write operation. In output port you cannot perform read operation. That is a restriction. Okay, hope the point is clear to you, right? So when you are using input port and you are using a port as an input port, then you have to perform read operation only. You have to perform read operation only. For performing read operation, we use this control signal, which is IO read, which is IO read bar. Okay, so this is for input port. Similarly, for write, for output port, we use this control signal called IO read, because in on an output device through a port we can do write operation only. Okay. Hope the things are clear, right? So what is the importance of IO port here? IO port is a device that helps the microprocessor to communicate with other devices or external devices. Okay, so that is a channel here. So through that port, we can perform either input operations or output operations. If you are connecting an input device to that port, then we can perform only read operation. If you are connecting an output device through that port, then we can perform only write operation. And in order to perform read operation, we have to use this control signal. And in order to perform write operation, we have to use this control signal, right? So this is a basic thing here, right? So that is why we need an interfacing. Suppose, see, uh, through this, as we discussed, through this ports, we can perform input output operations. So in order to establish that communication, we need interfacing. We need what? Interfacing. So in order to establish that interfacing, for input ports, we have a separate latch. For output ports, we have a separate latch. See here. The following figure shows. See, this is one device that performs the input operation. See, this is the output operation port and this is the input operation port. Okay, this is the 74LS373 is the output port for interfacing, and this is the input port. Okay, so we need to use two different what you can say, two different latches or buffers for having input ports and output ports. Okay, and in how many types we can do this, in how many types we can do this interfacing. See, methods of interfacing IO devices. Methods of interfacing IO devices. There are generally two methods of interfacing the IO devices. One is IO mapped IO interfacing and the memory mapped IO interfacing. Okay. So let us understand the difference between these two, and we will proceed to 8255. See, IO mapped IO interfacing, memory mapped IO interfacing. What is this? IO mapped IO interfacing. Generally, in the IO mapped interfacing, the devices are viewed as a distinct IO devices and are addressed accordingly. Okay, what happens in IO mapped interfacing? The devices which are connected, like mouse, keyboard, printer, monitor, or any external hard disk, pen drive, whatever the device that we are connecting, whatever the IO device that we are connecting is just viewed as a distinct IO device, and are addressed accordingly, That means they are generally viewed as a single IO device, a separate IO device, right? But coming to the memory mapped scheme, here, the devices are viewed as memory locations and are addressed likewise. Okay, so I'll show you the difference. See here, let this be the microprocessor. Okay, let this be microprocessor. Okay, generally for microprocessor, you may be connecting any what you can say, any IO device. Suppose let us say a mouse. Okay, suppose you have connected a mouse. This mouse, if it is connected in IO mapped mode, IO mapped interfacing is done between microprocessor and mouse, then this mouse is used as a input device. This mouse is used as a input device connected to it, connected to the microprocessor, That means it is viewed as an external device connected to the microprocessor. Okay, but in memory mapped scheme, what happens in memory mapped scheme? This mouse is used as one of the memory location. Okay, one of the memory location, right? Suppose in 8086 we have 1 megabytes of memory location, 1 MB of memory location. So this mouse is used as one of the memory location, and it is addressed in the same way. Right? So how we address a memory location? In similar manner, this mouse is also addressed. Whereas in IO mapped interfacing, we'll address in the port instructions. Like we have port instructions like input, output. We have these port instructions now. So using this, we'll address in the IO mapped mode. Whereas in memory mapped mode, we don't use these instructions. We directly use normal instructions in order to address it, right? So that is the difference here. Right? So generally, we'll see some more differences between IO mapped and memory mapped things. So in IO mapped interfacing, what we'll have is generally in 8086, how many address lines we have? 20 address lines we have now. 20 address lines we have. So in IO mapped mode, we use input and output instructions in order to address that particular IO device connected. So that is why we go for only 16 address lines. 16 address lines. Okay. That means out of 20 address lines we use only 16 address lines in IO mapped mode. The remaining address lines will have zero value, will have zero address value. Okay, that is the difference. And as I told you, in IO mapped mode, we use input and output instructions for accessing them. Okay, right? So we, as we are using only 16 address lines, we can use 64K input bytes or 64 KB output devices. Okay, if you are using only input devices, then you can use 64K input devices, or if you are using that only output devices, you can use 64K output devices, or else 32K input and 32K output you can use. Okay, hope the point is clear now. So in IO mapped interfacing, whatever the input output device that we are connecting to the microprocessor, that is used as any other external device only. Okay, దాన్ని ఒక separate external device లానే చూస్తారు, right? So out of 20 address lines that we have, we use only 16 address lines, and the remaining 4 address lines will have a logical zero value. That means we do not use them. As we are using only 16 address lines, we can access 64 KB, 64 kilobytes of IO devices, either 64 KB input devices or 64 KB output devices, or else 32 KB input devices or 32 KB output devices. Okay, so in order to access them, we have to use input output instructions. That is about IO mapped. And the control signals used are, for an input device, as I told you, we use this IO read signal, and for output devices we use IO write off. These are the two control signals that are used in IO mapped interfacing. Okay, so hope IO mapped interfacing is clear to you. Now let us see what is memory mapped. As I told you, in memory mapped interfacing scheme, we look that devices which are connected to the microprocessor as one of the memory location, So we need, as we are seeing that external device as a memory location, so we need to access the entire 20 address lines that we have. We need to access the entire 20 address lines we have, because so each and every memory location will have an address of will have a physical address of 20 bits in 8086 microprocessor that we have been discussing in all the previous classes, right? So as we are having 20 address lines, each and every memory location will have a physical address consisting of 20 bits. Okay, so we need 20 address lines. Okay, we need 20 address lines. And everything will get changed here. Okay, so in memory mapped addressing mode, we'll have different control signal, we'll have different instructions to access. See here, as I told you now, we have to use 20-bit address. That means we can have 1 million byte devices, 1 million byte devices, either input or output devices. See, as we are looking these IO devices as one of the memory locations, so we are nothing left with the program memory. We are nothing left with the program memory in the memory mapped IO scheme. Why? Because we are using the entire memory location for IO devices, for accessing what? IO devices only. We are using the entire memory location for accessing the IO devices only. So the address lines, the 20 address lines that we have cannot be used for accessing the program memory. Cannot be used for accessing the program memory, right? Because we have no address lines left in order to access the program memory. That is why the accessing of program memory is not done in memory mapped IO scheme. Okay, that is one disadvantage we have. The next thing is the control signals here. In memory mapped IO scheme, the control signals used are MRDC and MRTC. Okay, so this is for read operation and this is for write operation. MRDC bar is for read operation, which is for input devices. MRTC is for write operation, which is for output devices. Okay, and what are all the different instructions that you can use here? I told you now, we can use the remaining instructions, any kind of instructions. See, all the applicable data transfer instructions like move, LEA, okay, these are the instructions that we can use to communicate with a memory mapped IO devices. Okay, hope the points are clear now. Right? So the instructions that has to be used are also clear now. But the thing is, after having clarity regarding this IO mapped and memory mapped, IO mapped and memory mapped, the thing is, which is used by the 8086 microprocessor. That means which mapping scheme or which interfacing scheme is preferred by the 8086. See, 8086 generally prefers IO mapped devices. IO mapped devices. See, in case of 8086 system, the memory mapped method is seldom used. Seldom used means it is very rarely used. Very rarely used. Hence, all the peripheral devices in most of the practical systems are essentially IO mapped devices. Okay, hence all the peripheral devices in most of the practical systems are essentially IO mapped devices. That means we see that a connected device as an external device itself, not as a memory location, not as a memory location. So in order to perform this kind of interfacing, in order to perform this kind of IO interfacing between 8086 microprocessor and the input output devices, we need generally we need an input interfacing device and output interfacing device. Okay, but see, just a minute. As I showed you a figure here, see, for interfacing input devices, we need a separate latch here, and similarly for interfacing input devices, we need a separate latch here. Okay, so for two interfacing devices, we need two output devices or two input devices, right? In order to avoid this complexity, okay, in order to avoid this complexity, like for input device, we need a separate interfacing device. For output device, we need a separate interfacing device. Okay, for output device, we need a separate interfacing device. For input device, we need a separate interfacing device. So, in order to avoid this complexity, we use a chip. We use a chip called 8255, 8255, which is nothing but programmable peripheral interface. Okay, so we'll see that now. Right. See, this is the one. This is the one which we used. PPI 8255A. A means advanced. A means what? Advanced. Okay. So PPI means programmable peripheral interface. Okay. So this is a chip. This is a chip which provides you the interfacing, of both input devices and output devices. Okay, so we no need to use a separate chip for output devices interfacing, a separate chip for input devices interfacing. Okay, we can use the same chip for input devices interfacing, output devices interfacing, or any other external data devices interfacing. Okay, like any hard drive or pen drive. Okay, right. So such kind of thing. So for any IO devices interfacing, you can use this 8255 chip. Okay, that is the importance of this 8255A. So these are all the things that we have to discuss here. What is the internal architecture of 8255, different working modes of 8255, control word, operation of different 8255 modes, and BSR mode control word, and some interfacing examples. Okay, so these are the things that we have to look into under this 8255. Okay, so let us just look into the basic block diagram of 8255 in this class, and we'll stop. Okay, so from tomorrow we'll look into the working modes, control word, and operation of different 8255 modes. This 8255 takes at least 2 to 3 classes. Okay, so for this class, for the remaining time, we'll just look into the architecture, internal architecture of programmable peripheral device. See, as you can see here, the Intel 8255 is a general purpose programmable IO device which may be used with many different microprocessors. So 8255 is a programmable interface device, that was produced by or manufactured by Intel. Okay, so Intel produced this 8255, and as I told you, it is programmable. Programmable means what? We can tell this particular chip. We can tell this particular chip how to behave. Okay, how to work can be decided by the programmer, can be decided by the user through control words or command words. That is nothing but the meaning of programmable. Programmable means what? We can program this particular chip how to work. Okay, so generally we have 40 pins. This 8255 is also a 40 pin chip. Out of 40 pins, there are 24 IO pins. How many IO pins we have? There are 24 IO pins we have. Okay, so 24 IO pins we have, which may be individually programmed in two groups. which may be individually programmed in two groups of 12 and used in three major modes of operation. Okay, you can use them in three major modes of operation, right? So out of 40 pins, right? We'll have 40 pins here, a 40 pin chip. So out of 40 pins, we have 24 IO pins. That means we can connect either 24 input devices or 24 output devices, or else you can split in any manner. Okay, depending upon your requirement, you can use them in any manner, right? So generally, these 24 IO pins will be grouped into two. Okay, so these 24 IO pins will be grouped into two. Each group will have 12 IO pins. Each group will have 12 IO pins, and we can use them. We can make those 24 pins to work in three major modes. That means these 24 pins can be made to work in three major modes. Okay. The high performance and industry standard configuration of 8255A make it compatible with 8086. Okay, so it is the most compatible interfacing device with 8086, right? So this is the block diagram here, which shows you the architecture of 8255. The different parts of 8255 you can see here. Let us try to understand each and every block of this particular diagram. See, the 24 pins which I told you is this. Okay, the 24 pins. So these are 8 pins here. PA0 to PA7 are 8 pins. PC7 are 4 pins. Okay, and next one is PC0 to PC3. So these are 4 pins. 4 plus 4, 8. 8 plus 8, 16. And this is PB0 to PB7. These are 8 pins. So in total, we have 24 pins. Okay, we have 24 pins here. So these are the IO pins through which you can connect the IO devices. Okay, so you can use these 8 pins either as input port or output port. Similarly, these also we can use in input port or output port. Okay, so all the 24 pins that we have, you can use them either as uh, input port or output port. Okay, as I told you, these 24 pins are grouped into two groups. Two groups. You can see this is one group. Okay, and this is another group. Okay, so these are 12 groups. These are 12 pins as one group, and these 12 pins are one group. Okay, so port A, and upper port C. Upper port C is one group. Port B and lower port C is group B. Okay. And next, each group, see here, each group will have individual control. Each group will have individual control. Group A control and group B control. Okay. So each and every group will have a different control. Right. So for this control, you will get the control signals from this control logic. Read write control logic will give you the control signals to this individual group controls. Okay. I told you about control word and command word. Na? That means we can program the 8255 according to our requirement. Okay. This I told you. Na? So that programming is done using this read write control logic. Okay. So this read write control logic is useful to program the 8255. And this data bus buffer is used to transfer data between microprocessor. Okay. Between microprocessor, 8086 microprocessor, and this 8255. This is 8255, let us say. So between 8255 and microprocessor, in order to have data transfer, we use this data bus buffer. Okay. So hope each and every block is clear to you now. Okay. I'll repeat the blocks. See, these are all the ports, IO ports that we have. These are all the IO ports we have. Okay. So in total we have 3 ports. Port A, port B, and port C. Port A, port B, and port C. Each port will have 8 pins. Where you can connect 8 IO devices. Okay. So each port will have 8 pins. And for each port you can connect 8 IO devices. So all the 3 ports are divided into 2 groups. That means port A and the upper port C into one group as group A, and the port B and lower port C as group B. Okay. For these groups, we have individual group controls. That means these group controls control the operation of these groups. That means suppose we have some devices connected here, some IO devices connected to this group. Okay. So the control of these IO devices connected to group A will be done from here. Okay. And the devices connected in group B will be controlled from here. Okay. Right. So for these group controls, the main control signals will be obtained from this particular block, read write control logic, which is actually done by the user or programmer. Okay. So this actually controlled by the user or programmer. And this database buffer is used to transfer data between microprocessor and 8255. So hope the things are clear to you. Now let us look into these signals. What are these signals here? See, read bar. RD bar means what? Read bar. WR bar means what? Write bar. That means this signal, when you have 0 on this particular signal, you will have a read operation. That means what? For any devices that we have connected here. Okay. So in order to have read operation, we need this signal to be 0. Okay. Similarly, if you want to write operation, then we have to have 0 here. Write bar is equal to 0. Okay. So read operation is performed when it is 0. Write operation is performed when it is 0. Okay. So this A0, A1, this A0, A1 decides the port. Okay. Decides which port has to be selected. Okay. We have three different ports now. Suppose which port has we have to select. Okay. Suppose that we have to do write operation. Let us say we have to do write operation. So we have 24 pins now. We have 24 IO pins, and out of 24 pins we grouped them into three ports. So in which port we need to write this write operation, that is decided by A0, A1. Okay. So A0, A1 selects the type of port here. And this reset signal is used to clear all these port values. You have 24 pins now. If you are having a high value on this, if you are having a high value, okay, logic high value, then all the port values will be cleared to 0. Okay, no port will be in active state. No port will be in active state. And this is CS bar. CS bar means what? Chip selector. Chip selector. Okay. Chip selector. This is used to select the 8255 chip by the microprocessor. Okay. So this is a signal. See, this is a signal sent by the microprocessor. Sent by the microprocessor. Okay. So this microprocessor signal will help you to trigger the 8255. Will help you to trigger the 8255. Okay. So that is nothing but the block diagram of 8255. Hope every point is clear to you. Okay. Hope every point is clear to you. See, as I told you, na, A0, A1 will be help to select the port. Okay. When it is 00, we select the port A. When it is 01, we select the port B. When it is 10, we select the 10 port C. Okay. And if it is 11, we select the control word. Okay. From these signals, we get the control chip select signal. Okay. And as I told you, data bus buffer is used to establish the data transfer between 8086 and 8255. This is actually 8255. 8255. Right? So that is about the architecture, and we'll also have a look at the pin diagram. So this is the pin diagram here. As you can see, it is a 40 pin chip. Okay, it is a 40 pin chip where these pins are data lines. These are data lines here. Okay, and this is port A, upper nibble. This is port A, lower nibble, and this is port C entirely. Port B, port B, and this is port B. Okay, and you will have VCC as a supply and ground. Okay, and the remaining are, this is read signal, this is chip select signal. Okay, and these two are the signals which help you to select which port we are doing, and this is write and reset signals. Okay, these are all the signals that we discussed already, right? So we'll stop here for today. In tomorrow's class, what we'll do is we'll look into the control words. Okay, so these are all the control words that we have. Okay, in tomorrow's class, we'll see what is this control word, what are different modes that we have, right? So hope the thing is clear to you. The introduction part of the IO interfacing and the 8255 is clear to you. If you have any doubt regarding this,